Isabella. I am a senior at the Latin School of Chicago, and I am the editor-in-chief of Polyphony Lit.
And I'm Emmy, and I am a junior from a high school in Winnetka, Illinois, and I'm an executive editor at Polyphony Lit.
Great to meet you both.
Nice to meet you.
You too. And so just a little bit about Polyphony. We are an international student-run literary magazine. We have over 150 editors all around the globe, and one thing that really distinguishes us from other magazines is sort of the emphasis on the author-editor relationship and how we try to provide as much feedback to each author as possible.
So I have a brief introduction for Jennifer Egan, and she is the author of several novels and a short story collection. Her new novel, Manhattan Beach, published last fall and a New York Times bestseller, has been awarded the 2018 Andrew Carnegie Medal for Excellence in Fiction, and her previous novel, A Visit from the Goon Squad, won the Pulitzer Prize, the National Book Critics Circle Award, and the Los Angeles Times Book Prize. And also a journalist, she has written frequently in the New York Times Magazine, most recently about pregnancy and childbirth among opioid-dependent women.
Polyphony Lit, we are a high school literary magazine, obviously, and we are so curious to know, being that we have this emphasis on the author-editor relationship, what the relationship is like with real authors and real editors.
Well, I think it varies a lot. I have generally tried to get my work to a pretty strong position before I give it to an editor. Sometimes I've written whole books before I've even tried to sell them. And the reason is, I think that in the publishing world, getting that enthusiasm of the publishing house is really important, and I think that starts with having people say, oh wow, this is really good. And so I'm always reluctant to turn in something that is a mess, because I feel like it's possible for word of that to start kind of seeping out, and it can color the impression people in the publishing house have of the book before they even see it. That might be a little paranoid, but the thing is, my whole method relies so much on feedback, and so in a way, my first editors really are my readers, my colleagues who are readers. So I have a writing group there are about 6 or 7 of us at any given time, and we only read work aloud because we kind of all have the experience together and then give feedback. And I often bring work in at a really early phase just to find out if it has a pulse, like if it seems like it's alive. And reading aloud makes that really clear. You can feel very quickly whether there's like a tension and excitement in the room or whether everyone's kind of glazing over. But I bring in work at an early phase with every book I've worked on, and just kind of try to feel where the excitement lies, where the voice is strong, what things are really not working, and kind of making the material sort of go lifeless. And so in a way, those are my first editors. And then once I've been through several big drafts and I have a draft that I really think is workable, then I start to go through a series of readers, some of whom are in the writing group and some of whom aren't, who read the whole thing and give me more feedback. And I try to have a variety of people, men, women, different ages, different ethnicities, just so I'm sort of getting every point of view, and any possible complaint or most possible complaints people might have, I've at least had a chance to try to address. And often people will really agree, like, this part's really slow. If that's really true, more than one person is going to think that. Mm-hmm. So by the time I give anything to an actual editor at a publisher, I've been through all of these phases. And then the editor gives me more feedback, and that's really helpful, because now I'm hearing things that I haven't heard yet, because I will have incorporated everything I've heard or whatever made sense to me. So the editor is another layer in a many-layered process of trial and error, really, finding out what's working and what isn't, and fixing it. And so editors are important at every level, professional and non-professional. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So we were sort of curious about the beginning of this entire sort of process, and so when you were maybe sort of new to the writing world? Like, what was your experience with your editor, maybe the first experience you had and that sort of early phase of writer-editor relationships?
Well, this was a different editor, but I vividly remember that I sold a book that it really still needed work. And I think maybe this is really where I learned that lesson about trying to bring in something that I had vetted more thoroughly before I arrived at a publishing house. I was lucky to sell it. There was a huge auction and only one person bid, which was a little scary. And I remember going into her office for the first time. Her name is Nan Talese, and she's a legendary editor and an excellent editor. And I'm sitting down, and I noticed she placed a very large box of Kleenex near me. And I thought, uh-oh, I don't think I'm going to like this. And she basically said, about 25% of every page needs to go. And she said, I'm not going to go through and show you, because I don't even know how you're going to remove 25% of this book, but I'm going to edit a few pages and show you what I mean. And then you take it from there. And so what she had done was, what she did was that she showed me how I was belaboring everything. Every thought, every observation, I was hammering it one blow too many to make sure the reader got it. And once she made me see that, once I looked at it through her prism and saw the pages she edited, I could see that it was rampant. The problem was everywhere. I didn't trust the reader. I was belaboring everything. And so I kind of vacuumed through the manuscript and removed about 25%. And it changed the book completely. And then it was actually funny, I took it back again, and I started taking more out. And she said, I feel like your book is becoming anorexic. You need to stop. But I mean, she really taught me to see that having too much is not only a drag, because there's a potential for it to be boring, or you kind of lose the tension of the narrative. Seeing something belabored actually really destroys the magic of that thing. Mm-hmm. And so that's a lesson that's always stayed with me.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that advice.